Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. Welcome back to the show, Rick.
Good afternoon, Jim. Thanks, as always, for inviting me on.
Rick, as we speak, the market's mixed. The Dow down, the NASDAQ and the S&P up slightly, but they've been zigzagging all over the place and overall performing quite poorly. Are we at the end of this dip, or is this going to still be a bouncy ride going into the fall?
We're in a very sloppy day in the larger context of a bear rally. So a couple targets that I can give you for the E-mini S&Ps, the S&P 500 futures. We're currently trading 39.79. I'm looking for a minimum 4033, which is only about 50 points above. And if it gets through that in a decisive way, I think we'll be looking at 4116. And I'll call it my worst case, but strictly speaking, it's a rally, so it's not worst case according to most investors. But let's say my worst case for the current delusion basis, the E-mini S&Ps would be around, it's 4256. So we'll have to see. But again, I think we're going at least another 50 points to the upside. And those three numbers that I just gave you, if one is impaled decisively, then you should look for the next to be reached.
Now, everybody's saying, okay, is the worst over? Things are going to be going up. But as you said, a 50-point bounce or even 100 at this point compared to what we've seen in the recent past really isn't a whole lot to hang your hat on, is it? It's a quick trade, get in, get a little profit, and jump the hell back out of the frying pan?
Well, when you talk about the worst being over, you can come at it from two different directions. You know, the worst of the stock market, and that's always true. No matter how bad the real worst could be, that meaning the economy and our day-to-day lives, the stock market, in its mentally deranged way, in psychotic fashion, can rally to who knows where. The assumption is we're in a bear rally, but if it's a bear rally worthy of the name, it could get to a level where even I'm thinking, geez, I wonder if this thing could actually hit new all-time highs. And, but before that threshold is reached, you get people thinking, well, you get them to stop thinking because, the bear market began in January for a reason. And as the year unfolded, we became more and more familiar with the reasons. They had to do with earnings. They had to do with a really wacky employment picture. They had to do with global shortages and $6 gasoline and things like that. And they're all here. They're still here. And some things can only get worse, like our air traffic system, for one. And I was talking to my webmaster, happened to have been a retired pilot for United, and he's been retired for 6 or 7 years. But they sent him a letter saying, "Hey, would you be interested in coming back?" So when the airlines get that desperate, and he was a good pilot, but he's certainly not interested in returning to work. And I'm sure that a lot of pilots are like that. So you look out at our air travel, and it never straightens out. You know, they're never going to get a handle on this because the pipeline for the pilots is the military, and even the military is flying fewer sorties now, and they're not up in the air practicing as much. So, but you look at other things like the retail picture, and even though Jim Cramer might be talking about the next boom, we've had an enormous loss of retail activity. So many places have closed. So what we're reading really is sales at Amazon or whatever. So it doesn't matter which area of the economy you're looking at. It doesn't get better. So again, the market could go higher anyway, and it will reach a certain level where that the miracle of bear rallies is that it makes people forget what the hell was wrong with the economy to begin with.
Inflation, of course, running at levels we haven't seen in 40 years. How long is this thing going to be sucking money out of our pocket? And I'm just citing a recent study in Canada that found 3 of the major supermarket chains are charging you more, not because their supplies and their suppliers are charging more, but simply because they can charge you more.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there. It's like, prices have been fairly stagnant. It was hard over the good years for retail to pass on price increases, and they didn't. But once somebody kind of broke the ice and they all kind of jumped in and said, well, geez, we can raise the price and make package smaller. We'll go down to an 11.6 ounce pound for this product or whatever. So we're getting cheated in many ways. And you're right. Some of particularly at the grocery store, the price increases are breathtaking. They really are. If they weren't such, if we weren't talking about small items there, it really would be breathtaking. So I think there's a lot of opportunistic raising of prices now. Let me point out that Rick's Picks has only raised its price once in the last 20 years. That was years ago.
Rick, you've always been a bargain. And the advice is well worth it. Now, also noted, the Bank of Canada raised its trend-setting rate by a full percentage point. The Fed meets next week. They may do the same thing, do you believe?
No, I don't believe they will. You've already got the buzz out there that maybe they're going to lengthen the timeline for when these interest rate increases are coming. But it's pretty obvious that the extent to which they've raised rates already is all but asphyxiated the economy. And, a point that I've made for a long time is that you don't have to raise interest rates. There's so much debt being subjected to the existing rate that just a small turn of the screw is really going to be enough to, you don't want to tighten too much or you really snuff the global economy. So that's kind of where we are. And to talk about, interest rates going higher as far as the eye can see, that's full of hooey. Interest rates are already high enough to snuff the global economy. So, no, I don't think the Fed's going to raise rates anymore.
The Bank of Japan did not raise rates today. The European Central Bank raised their rates 0.5%, their first hike in 11 years. Do you think they're done?
Well, a lot of jockeying around there, Japan, with its export-based economy, is certainly, it always has an incentive to let the yen slide, and they're way past the point where simple nationalistic pride was a reason for maintaining a strong yen. So you look at the yen and you think there really is no bottom there.
The U.S. dollar, people keep describing it as the prettiest pig in the slaughterhouse. Is it?
Yes, it is. And when we speak of dollar strength, and that is in part a function of the fact that all the other currencies are crap. But when you reach a certain point, that factor diminishes in importance relative to the attractiveness of the dollar as an investment medium. Acquiring dollars either to sit there in cash, but in better cash than your own, if you're outside the U.S., or to invest in dollar-denominated assets because they're you kind of get it both ways. You get the dollar appreciation, plus you get the appreciation of the stock or bond or whatever. So the dollar strength is taken on new sources of support, and there's not going to be any slowing it down.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rick Ackerman. Rick, what's the story with gold right now?
I like gold. I mean, you have to hate it if you've stuck with it for forever. It's just been a real bear, since COMEX gold topped just above 2,000, and it would have been March of this year. It's come down to below 1,700, and I would say, considering that it's bucked a strong dollar, it could have been worse. We've seen a $400 sell-off, but it could have been worse. So I think gold is finally getting to the point where you can think about buying it, and the gold stocks, I think, are going to be a little bit behind the move. They need energy prices to come down because it's so labor and energy intensive to get gold out of the ground. So I think they're going to lag, but eventually you're going to see them catch fire because so many gold stocks, particularly the juniors, the exploration stocks, they are selling at disaster prices. They are definitely bargains, and they've been bargains for a long time. But at some point, that fact is going to be appreciated, and they'll do a lot of catching up with physical. But the barbell hedge that I've been talking about for a long time is ripe here. The Treasury side of it was already a buy, measured against the 3.54% forecast I'd put out on an interest rate peak in the 10-year. But gold was still awaiting a bottom. My current target for it would be the August COMEX contract is 1665, and we've gotten within pretty close. This morning, overnight, we came down to 1998, and no, I'm sorry. Can that be right? Hang on, I'm just looking at a chart here. 1678. So we got within $13 of a target that's been coming since early June. Actually, the entire pattern goes back to April of this year. So it's a big pattern that's traced out, and I'm not sure yet whether the low we had today within $13 of 1665 is it. But I think gold is ready for a turn here.
A bill to decriminalize marijuana is going to the U.S. Senate. Does it have any chance of success? And if it does, is that going to create another Wild West in the pot market, the legitimate pot market?
Oh, I think there's no Wild West. It's all just a revenue scam, and not scam, but of course, in any place where you buy marijuana legally, whether it's New Jersey or Florida with difficulty, Colorado very easily, California very easily, but that the official price is always much higher than the street price, and that's because they piled so much in taxes on top of marijuana sales that it's I won't say it's killed the market, but it's certainly affected it. So as far as legalizing, Lenny Bruce, this was going back 70. Lenny Bruce died in the early 60s, I guess it was, but in the early 60s and late 50s, he was talking about marijuana for sure would be legalized because all of his lawyer friends smoked dope, and they would eventually become congressmen. So most of them would be dead and gone by now, and we still don't have legalized marijuana at the federal level. And I don't know whether it's all about money at this point, and I don't know. Maybe they're looking into thinking the states have monopolized the trade to the extent that the states will reap the benefit here. But sooner or later, yeah, they're going to pass a national law that allows all the state marijuana sellers to finally do their business through actual banks and do business like the rest of us.
Isn't that the main drawback right now, that federally regulated banks can't deal with pot because it's deemed illegal federally, but even though it's legal in several states?
Yeah, and everybody appreciates the hypocrisy of it. In a few states, the governor stepped in and tried to kind of end run the federal banking laws with, let's say, very limited success. So it's even with the hindrance, though, you go to a town like Boulder, and the only retailers out there who are taking those huge double truck ads, the ads that spread across 2 pages in the middle of the paper, well, they're all marijuana sellers. So you know that they're not doing double truck ads unless they're making money hand over fist. And of course, that's not the only hurdle. It's just hugely expensive to buy the kind of indoor space you need for growing. And it's very energy intensive. It's a lot of things, but you see some entrepreneurs still put up with it.
Well, again, one of the marijuana activists here in Vancouver, Jody Emery, said, why are they charging so much for marijuana? It doesn't cost any more to grow it than it does a cabbage. They should be charging you $9 for your marijuana, not $100.
Good point. But where do you go to make your argument? You can write an op-ed piece or something, but don't expect that to change the price structure.
Well, in Canada, back in 1975, the Ledane Commission recommended that marijuana be legal because it didn't hurt society and used correctly. It doesn't kill the user. In fact, research done by UCLA found that marijuana sloughs off cancer cells in the lungs. It doesn't cause lung cancer. It fights it. It'll still give you emphysema because it clogs up your air passages, but the cancer part's taken away. Because I always wondered if people have been using pot since the 60s. I haven't seen any stats saying, oh, well, cancer rates have skyrocketed because of marijuana use. I haven't seen any research connecting the two. I've just seen the opposite.
Well, it's really comical how the medical establishment and big pharma fight marijuana when virtually everybody out there knows it works for everything. It doesn't matter whether you're always nauseated from chemotherapy or you have dizzy spells or whatever. Marijuana is the cure, and like 50 million anecdotes can't be wrong. So marijuana is a great healer. It just it helps with so many conditions that the doctors are clueless about, particularly in the neurological area. So it just works, and here we are, debating whether marijuana should be licensed for, unless people start thinking they can treat these horrible medical conditions that they've been treating anyway. And it's a little bit like chiropractors. The establishment and the orthopods would love to say they're all quacks, but they aren't. Chiropractic has flourished for one simple reason: they get results, especially if you're going to a good chiropractor and your orthopedist is struck out.
Rick, how would you sum up what's going on right now?
Well, we're going down a crapper, but we're in a bear rally now that's tending to distract from all those things that are spinning down the toity. So this is maybe the eye of the hurricane we're in right now. But even then, I'm not gonna get too aggressively in the way of this bear rally, because, as I said, the bear rally has a point of reaching a threshold where it causes this amnesia in investors about why we were having a bear market to begin with. And I don't think the causes of that bear market have been even ameliorated, much less eliminated.
Rick, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Well, always a pleasure, Jim. I appreciate the chance to connect with your sizable audience.
My guest has been Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks. His website, rickackerman.com. If you have any questions for Rick or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.